So Janet Jackson, who we rarely ever really hear from, came out. She did an interview with The Guardian, and in the interview was all about her life, her career. They asked her about, where she is, like politics. So the excerpt from the article says, this is the writer of the article. They speak to you and then they answer the question. So she's saying, I wonder where she stands. She is Janet Jackson on the forthcoming election. After all, I say, America could be on the verge of voting in its first black female president, Kamala Harris. This is what she says to Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson responds, well, what they supposedly said. She's not black. That's what I heard. That she's Indian. Then the writer puts in italics that Janet Jackson looked at her expectantly, perhaps assuming that the writer was also of Indian heritage. And the interviewer said that she then shot back at Janet, well, she's both. And then Janet said, her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that they discovered her father was white. Then the writer says that she was floored at this point because it's well known that Kamala Harris's father is a Jamaican economist, a Stanford professor who split from her Indian mom when she was 5.
Well, maybe it's not as well known as people think. And that's why I think folks was being too hard on Janet. Like, she was misinformed. Correct her and then, move on. Like, it's easy to be misinformed and repeat something you heard nowadays. Happens every single day to all types of people.
Yeah, they jumped on Janet.
They were going wild.
Yeah, they jumped on Janet, which she didn't. She had wrong information, and people have wrong information all the time. It's not like she said it. She was asked about the question, and she said what she was heard. I think they was hard on Janet.
They were, and I think too, people have to realize that like all of this happened pretty fast, because I know in the beginning there was a lot of people that had misinformation and had to come back and correct themselves and re-educate themselves. I was one of them as well too.
By the way, the Guardian didn't have to reprint that.
They didn't. Okay.
By the way.
So now let me tell you. So after this went out, there was then this apology that surfaced. The apology was from Janet Jackson, allegedly, and it said, Janet Jackson would like to clarify her recent comments. She recognizes that her statements regarding Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity were based on misinformation. Janet respects Harris' dual heritage as both black and Indian and apologizes for any confusion caused. She values the diversity Harris represents and understands the importance of celebrating that in today's society. Janet remains committed to promoting unity and understanding, right? So now it's like, oh, all is well. She says she was misinformed. Mm-hmm. And then it comes out that the guy who gave this statement, a guy named Mo El-Morassi, who alleged he reached out to BuzzFeed, who first ran the apology, and then everybody else followed. He alleged that he was a manager or representation for Janet Jackson. And then after this, articles and people begin to print. I know TMZ printed it. Variety of major outlets
printed it,
said, no, we're sorry. We were just contacted by a rep for Janet Jackson who told us that this apology was unauthorized and that this Mo guy has no connection to Janet. However,
this is crazy.
No, seriously. And I was like,
so nobody checks their sources. Nobody cites the sources. Nobody checks to see if he's even with the team.
BuzzFeed, who originally reported the apology first, said that because he was a credited producer on Janet's upcoming documentary, and because he had given statements before about Janet Jackson in the past, I guess they just ran with it. But he also put out another statement after it was debunked that he works with her team and said that he no longer works for her. He was fired by Janet and Randy because they made it clear Randy Jackson, her brother, is her manager and has been for a very long time. And he said, the Mo guy said, after attempts to improve her image in the front of the public and her fans, this is something I do not deserve. So he's basically saying he was fired because he issued the apology. It was a lot.
So it seems like he just did it on his own?
That's what it seems like. I don't know what his connection to her is. Her team is saying there is none. He's saying that there was one, but now he's fired.
Can we open up the phone lines next hour? Because I really want to know if people were upset at Janet or if this was just a social media narrative.
No, people were pissed at Janet. They were like, you a black woman and that whole thing. D.L. Hughley actually went off on Janet. I don't want to misquote anything he said. He has some remarks too. He basically said that it was ironic to hear Janet Jackson comment on a black woman while speaking from a nose of a white woman.
Jesus,
something like that. Yeah, I'll pull that up. But no, people were pissed. They were dragging her. And then when all the confusion came out about the apology or whatever, people were like, okay, so now what's happening? Like, this is all just a mess. And all of this is happening, and the reps wanted to make it clear, all of this is happening while Janet and her family are mourning the loss of their brother. You guys remember we reported that Tito Jackson passed away. So
did she backtrack or no?
No, they never. Once they corrected that this apology was unauthorized, they never offered up another apology or backtrack. They just said she's unavailable for comment.
It was interesting to see DL come at Janet too, because DL's also been the victim of misinformation.
Yeah.
So I would think he would, just have more grace.
Understand, yeah.
Hey, I think you'd understand a little bit more.
He said that DL Hughley said that the interview sounded like a Trump rally. It's ironic to question whether someone is black while you're breathing through the nose of a white woman.
You also got to remember DL's a comedian too.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, we forget that these guys are also making jokes.
Yeah, you're going to have them jokes.
Yeah, but I just think, like I said, everybody has been guilty of misinformation at some point because with the way the internet runs rapid, you just don't know. And it goes to show, like, Janet Jackson is Janet Jackson. She has all the available resources for information, and she still got it wrong. She should have just said, I don't know, or not answered the question.
And I blame everybody who legitimizes foolishness. The newspapers, the news networks, when you sit around and make things like this a point of debate, like when you replay Trump and others constantly repeating these lies, you amplify them, and the lie gets around the world 3 times, as fast, and the truth still be putting on issues.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're the Guardian, you have this quote, so you would advise, if you were the editor, you would advise them not to run this.
No, I would have told them run it because, I want them hits and that engagement and them clicks.
But that goes against what you just said.
And they just corrected her the right way, and they did correct her, right?
She did correct her, but people don't care about that. They're like, well, why would she say that in the first place? But
that is a good question you bring up, Laura. Like, if you are a magazine like The Guardian, right, and you say to yourself, damn, I already know this misinformation is running rampant. Do I put this story out, which I know is only going to reinforce more of that misinformation?
You're going to.
Because all the headlines, when you see the headlines now, it says, like Rolling Stone headline is Janet Jackson questions whether Kamala Harris is black.
Right.
That's not clearing it up. That's not giving somebody factual information.
But they're going for the hits, though. They're going for the hits.
NBC News says Janet Jackson tells interviewer she heard Kamala Harris is not black. All people see is Janet Jackson says Kamala Harris is not black. If you already heard that, now you might believe it because Janet Jackson said it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or you believe Janet Jackson said it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you do have to make an editorial choices.
Yeah, but they're
with
doing
integrity.
They're doing based off of hits, though. They want the traffic. And they know that's going to bring the traffic, which I'm sure it has, because we're talking about it for the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I will say that the interviewer here did try and, clean
her.
it up, correct her. She re-asked the question. She wanted to make sure they both understood that she was black. And then Janet responded, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what to answer because I really, truthfully don't know. I think either way it goes, it's going to be mayhem because they were talking about the peaceful transfer of power.
She's right about that.
If the world is ready for a black woman president, So she did try and give Janet some grace to kind of get it together, but she didn't know the answer. But
she didn't have the information. All right. Well, that is Jess with the Mess with Laura LaRosa. And then we'll talk about that next hour. 800-585-1051. After Donkey, you can get on the calls. Do you think people should be mad at Janet for having misinformation? Let's discuss after that. But Charlamagne, who you giving your donkey to?
I mean, for after the hour, I'm going to ask the same question. I want to put this Janet Jackson stuff out there and, I got some thoughts about it and just see what the people think.
All right.
I want to see if y'all think she deserves the biggest hee-haw.
Okay. All right. We'll get into that next. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.